and Timely Comet copped the barrier around the legs. The first one out, Shy General. Umbro's Best gone away in a break, and Prince Nijo from the outside coming up towards the lead. Back marker Quite Famous is still giving the 20 metres as they go down the straight. Umbro's Best is galloping and dropping right out. Now round the outside, Prince Nijo and Bronski Beat are vying for the lead. Shy General eases back on the rails. They were followed by another Shy on the outside of Ermis. The next one, Timely Comet. Then came Atta Candy and Ezra Hanover. Well back in the field is Voight, being followed by Quite Famous, and a long last is Monarch's Best. As they go down the back, the early pace is still going on with Bronski Beat in front. So Peterson decides to ease back with Prince Nijo. Shy General moves up along the rails, and another Shy cops the sweet seat. They were followed by Ermis on the rails. Timely Comet was next, and Ezra Hanover's gone out 3 wide. Atta Candy is back on the fence. Then there's a gap in the field to the others, steadily making up ground and working together. Voight, and on the outside of it is Quite Famous. A long gap in the field then to Monarch's Best at the rear. Up towards the winning post. They've completed 1 lap. They've got 2 laps to go, and the battle royal goes on for the lead. Ezra Hanover on the outside. Bronski Beat the rails. They're the 2 leaders. Shy General on the fence, and Prince Nijo's got the 1-1. Ermis was next. There goes Quite Famous around the outside of another Shy, followed farther back to Timely Comet, Atta Candy. Voight is well back, and now tacking onto the bunch is Monarch's Best. They're in the back straight to the Winfield stand, and the back marker Quite Famous storms down the outside and goes to the lead. In second place is Bronski Beat. On the outside, Ezra Hanover, followed by Shy General on the rails. Then Prince Nijo still in the 1 out, 1 back position. Ermis was next on the fence. On the outside of it went another Shy, followed by Timely Comet. Then came Monarch's Best. Atta Candy's hooked out, is making a run similar to the 2,000 metre heat when it charged up towards them at the bell. And last of all is Voight. They're bunched up as they race for the bell. Into the straight they come, and Quite Famous to leader. Ezra Hanover's on the outside. Prince Nijo's going out 3 wide. Bronski Beat on the rails. Then came Shy General. Atta Candy wide out. Voight is trying to get a run between horses. Nowhere to go. Voight clipped the back of Shy General and almost came down. In fact, he has. And he's thrown the driver out. He went there, Angel's Fear to tread. As they go into the back straight, the field is well bunched up. Quite Famous the leader. On the outside, Ezra Hanover, followed by Prince Nijo wide out. Then came Bronski Beat on the fence. Shy General was next. Atta Candy wide out. Ermis on the rails. Timely Comet followed by another Shy. And then back at the rear once again is Monarch's Best. Down the back they go, and the back marker Quite Famous is Sulky's length in the lead. In second place, Prince Nijo on the outside. Bronski Beat looking for the way out, but Quite Famous won't let it. They were followed farther back then to Shy General and Ermis. Ezra Hanover's giving ground. Quite Famous sprints clear, coming to the home turn. Bronski Beat gets out. Prince Nijo was gone, then came Shy General, but it's all Quite Famous halfway down the running. In fact, it's coming away from Bronski Beat, and Quite Famous wins the championship. Bronski Beat second, Ermis third, fourth home Shy General, then Atta Candy, Timely Comet, followed farther back to another Shy, Ezra Hanover, Prince Nijo, and the last one to finish was Monarch's Best. Red light's on, a false start has been declared. The championship, number 14, Quite Famous, trained and driven by Jim O'Sullivan for Mr. Alan Hunter, a 7-year-old bay horse by knowing fame from Sushla. The winner of the championship final, beating number 5, Bronski Beat, driven by John McLean. The winning margin was 4.5 metres. 5 metres away, third, number 10, Ermis, driven by Don Peck. Fourth, number 2, Shy General. Fifth, number 11, Atta Candy. The time, 2:59.74, a mile rate for the winner of 2:1.5, a new track record.
Anders came here with a lot of money, a lot of valuation in horses. He's come year after year, and he's been unfortunate. He hasn't won the championship, but he's won it this year. However, ladies and gentlemen, it's a long story, and I'll introduce all these distinguished people here today. We've got the Premier of Tasmania, the Honourable Robin Clark and Mrs. Clark, the Honourable the Minister for Racing, sorry, Gray. Oh, Jesus. Mr. Ian Braid and Mrs. Braid, the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Neil Batt, MHA, his wife, Dr. Green. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, there are many of them. We've got Kevin Pearce, He's the Director of Racing in Tasmania, harness racing in particular. Mr. Doug McKillop, Chairman of the Racing Board. Many distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I can't mention them all, there are that many of you. But one of the main ones here today, Mr. Michael Burling, State Manager of Winfield. What a magnificent supporter of harness racing Winfield has been to us. This second conduct of a $100,000 final is only available through the generous support of the Winfield company to the club. Sponsors of racing and sporting clubs generally, ladies and gentlemen, they are magnificent. They are invaluable to these groups and have a significance in the level of viability. We sincerely trust that our legislators, ladies and gentlemen, are aware of this significance when appropriate matters are raised. Ladies and gentlemen, I must at this time thank you to the staff, the girls, Miss Wendy Mackay, our new lass, Miss Jackie Campbell, to our track curator, Ray Eaton, to my committee, ladies and gentlemen, they have worked tirelessly, and most foremost of all, I must thank Van Ransley, our secretary, for the amount of work that he has done over the last 3 to 4 months. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'll ask Michael Burling, State Manager of Winfield, to respond on behalf of Winfield.
The Honourable Robin Gray, Premier of Tasmania, Mrs Gray. The Honourable Ian Braid, Minister for Racing. The Honourable Neil Batt, Leader of the Opposition, his wife, Dr Karen Green. Mr George Johnson, President of the Tasmanian Pacing Club, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Winfield Company, it is indeed a great pleasure to be here today to witness the exciting finish for the 1987-88 Winfield Tasmanian Pacing Championships. It is appropriate that I take this opportunity to congratulate the Tasmanian Pacing Club for the way in which they have conducted this series. A lot of hard work goes into preparing for an event of this nature, and I'd like to thank the Tasmanian Pacing Club, its ever hard-working committee, for ensuring the success of this championship. To the connections of the winning horse, Quite Famous, I offer you my congratulations. To the owner, the trainer, the driver, and all those connected with Quite Famous, you must be absolutely delighted with the win, and rightfully so. You took out first place, and to Helen Hunter, I congratulate you. You also brought in Bronski Beat to take second. A tremendous effort, a great horse, and a great race. The Winfield Company is delighted and pleased to be associated with the Tasmanian Pacing Club and the running of these championships, and we look forward to continuing our association and support in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael Burling. Thank you, Winfield. There were 2 guests here today that I have not mentioned, ladies and gentlemen. Mr Peter Burge from Queensland, Vice Chairman of the Australian Harness Racing Council. Mr Trevor Craddock, who is Chairman of the Victorian Harness Racing Board. Both their wives are with them, Joan Burge and Mrs Craddock. Welcome here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll call on the Premier, the Right Honourable Robin Gray, to present the trophies. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you very much, Mr Johnson. The Honourable Ian Braid, Minister for Racing, Mr Batt, Mr Barker, Mr Holgate, members of the Committee of the Tasmanian Pacing Club, Mr Burge, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we've just witnessed another great Winfield Pacing Championship. And I think on behalf of everybody here today, it would be appropriate for me to thank both Winfield and the Tasmanian Pacing Club for staging this magnificent event. This, ladies and gentlemen, has the biggest prize money of any race meeting anywhere in Australia today. And that's something that the TPC can take credit for. It's something that the Racing Directorate can take credit for, but it's also something that could not be done without the tremendous support of sponsors like Winfield. And to you, Mr. Burley, on behalf of the government and the people of Tasmania and the people who support harness racing, thank you very much for your continued strong support of harness racing in this state. Alan, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second time this year that I've had the opportunity to congratulate Alan Hunter on his wins in Tasmanian galloping and harness racing. And some of you may have forgotten, but Alan was the proud owner of the winner of the Launceston Cup back in February this year. He's been a great supporter of Tasmanian harness racing and galloping over a long period of time, and if it was to be a horse that wasn't a Tasmanian horse that had to win, then I think we couldn't have been more pleased that it was Alan's horse that did in fact win this magnificent race. To own both the horses that have run first and second is a magnificent achievement, and Alan, I know that you were tremendously excited. I watched you sitting up there in the front row. You didn't quite know whether to shout Bronski or shout Famous. You were shouting both at the one time there for a few seconds, but then it was quite Famous that quite clearly came home the winner. Congratulations to the Tasmanian Pacing Club on staging a magnificent Winfield Championships, and congratulations, Ellen, and to you, Mrs. Hunter, on being the owners of the winners.
I just gave my wife the opportunity to make the speech, but she declined. Mr. Gray, distinguished guests, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Ron Burling from Winfield. Really, I had a sort of a speech semi-prepared, and I didn't dare think about it, but I would like to thank Winfield very much for the great sponsorship, not only of the Tasmanian Pacing Championship, but all around Australia. It's Winfield that are sponsoring most of the races, and they do a great job. You can see around the head today that they've made sure that no stone was unturned to see everything was good, and we do owe a great deal of thanks to Winfield. To the Tasmanian Pacing Championship Club that put on this race, this is the fourth time I've been over, and I thought, well, if I keep coming, I'll eventually have to win one, and it's happened today. And it couldn't happen with a better horse than Quite Famous. He's been looked after here by Ian Fallon, and I do want to thank Ian for the way he's looked after him, and any time that Jim wants to give him up, I'm sure Ian would look after him. But great to have Tasmanian people. To Jim O'Sullivan, who trains Quite Famous. He's had him ever since we bought him, and I think it takes him up to about 380,000 he's won. Just looking at him, you can see why he's named Quite Famous. He's just such an outstanding horse. I would at this stage like to pay tribute to also the second horse, Bronski Beat, trained by John McLean. I thought he ran a gallant race, and he wasn't disgraced to run second to a horse like Quite Famous. I'd like to say I'll be back next year, because when you win, it's easier to come back than when you lose, and this is one of those great moments. Thanks very much for the hospitality from everyone, and good luck in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Congratulations. Now, Mr. Noel Coleman. It's the winning driver, isn't it, Noel?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Noel Coleman, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Premier, Mrs. Gray, the Minister for Racing, Mr. Braid, members of the Tasmanian Pacing Committee, distinguished guests. Well, we've actually seen a very, very good race by a champion horse, well driven by Mr. O'Sullivan, and I'd like to congratulate him on the drive of the race. That's O'Sullivan. Well done.
I'd like to thank everyone concerned, all the guests. He's a great horse, quite famous. He didn't win on Tuesday, but actually I think he ran faster time on Tuesday getting beat than he did today. But he's a great horse, and he could probably race every day. I think the run on Tuesday done him good. Thanks very much.
Hang on, Jim. Hang on, Jim. Hang on. There's a bloke here going to give you a presentation for the driver. You've had the driver, now you're getting the trainer from Mr. Terry Gathercole.
Thank you, George. I'd like to, Mr. Premier, I'd like to present this trophy on behalf of the Citizen Watch Company and Modern Jewellers to Jim. He's trained this horse magnificently. Ian Fallon has helped him while he was here. But Jim, you've trained this horse as good as anybody in Australia can. And I'll present you this trophy. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's easy to train good horses. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now this is going to be a funny act. These Winfield girls are going to put the garland of roses around the horse's neck. Away you go, girls. Here, whichever one you wish, as long as you only hold the horse.
George, what are the cigarettes for?
Oh yes, that's for the driver. Oh, he's as quiet as a lamb. Where's Ellen gone?
Behind, I think George up the side.
It's gone. And girls, the carton of cigarettes is for Jim. Yeah, I'll pick him up. She's got him. That's it. They've got to give that kiss. Public relations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your presence. It's been a fantastic series. God willing, weather providing, it'll be just as good or better next year. Thank you, Mr. President.